Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles, now the Birds making a couple of roster moves, and we have some Eagles news to get to after the NFL trade deadline, including a new Jalen Carter injury update. Stay tuned for that, but also tune in to our live show this afternoon, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. We'll be previewing this game against the Dallas Cowboys and passing along all of the latest Philadelphia Eagles news, rumors, and analysis. So hit that subscribe button. Let's continue to grow the Eagles Now family. And with that, let's let it rip on today's show. And today's Eagles Now is presented by Manscaped. Join the 9 million men worldwide who have put their trust in the best men's grooming products, and in the process, get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/chat. Promo code chat for that deal to apply. We'll tell you more about the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra here in just a little while. Some Eagles roster moves to get to kick off today's show. I want to begin with Cam Jurgens here. This is positive news and a great development for this Philadelphia Eagles offense. The practice window to return from IR has been activated for the Eagles right guard. He's been out since week 4, suffering that foot sprain against the Washington Commanders, and because of that, the Eagles have really struggled to establish that running attack. His status for this game against Dallas at Lincoln Financial Field is unknown. What Philadelphia wants to do, they open up that practice window. That's great, but they want to see how he looks in the lead up to that Cowboys game, and if he's good enough to play, he has a chance to play against what is a very good defensive front that the Dallas Cowboys have. The Eagles' rushing attack, with and without Cam Jurgens, a stark difference, especially for the Eagles' #1 running back in DeAndre Swift. When Cam Jurgens was on the field the first month of the season, DeAndre Swift was balling out. He was #2 to Christian McCaffrey for the most rushing yards in the NFL. And the expected points added per play, that's basically the wins above replacement version that the Major League Baseball analytical gurus look at, but it's the football version, was .26. DeAndre Swift's yards per attempt, 6.4 when Cam Jurgens was in the lineup, and the team rushing success rate was 56% as a unit. Without Cam Jurgens, though, look at how much these numbers have dropped off, both for the team and DeAndre Swift. Swift, expected points added per play, is down from .26 to .08 negative. That ain't good. And then his yards per attempt down from 6.4 to 3.7, so pretty much slashed in half. And then the team's rushing success down from 56% to 42%. So whether or not Cam Jurgens can play against a good front that the Dallas Cowboys do have with the good defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn, whenever he does return, I imagine we're going to see the return of a good running game, and hopefully that in turn unlocks DeAndre Swift. The Cowboys' rushing defense going into this game on Sunday, pivotal. We have NFC seeding that's up for grabs, and of course the NFC East as well. It can be had. Can this Cowboys rushing defense? They're about middle of the pack in all of these categories here. They're allowing 4.1 yards per rush. That's 18th among 32 teams in the NFL. They're giving up 108.8 rushing yards per game. That too is 18th among 32 teams. And they're giving up just under a rushing touchdown per game at number 15. I think at the point of attack, if Philadelphia can establish that run, and they can keep Dak Prescott and that offense off the field, not allowing them to get momentum, and then the Eagles can really wear the Cowboys down throughout the course of the ball game. That's one of the keys to victory for Philadelphia come Sunday, as they already have the best record in the NFL at 7-1, looking to improve upon that. It's Dallas week. I hate the Dallas Cowboys, and if you're with me, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon. I like the video, but that's not all. Type F Dallas in the chat as well. I cannot stand the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to the roster officially. Julio Jones, that is story number 2 on the docket for today's show. He's officially been added to the Eagles' active roster elevated from the practice squad the last 2 weeks. So that's why he was able to play against Miami. He was able to play against the Washington Commanders. When the Eagles originally signed him, they signed him to the practice squad. So he was a taxi squad elevation the last 2 weeks. And last week, that touchdown catch against the Washington Commanders, not only was it a really good throw from Jalen Hurts, you're inside the red zone. That's an area in which the Eagles have really struggled up to this point, but Hurts able to fake that handoff there and then let that throw rip right into the teeth of that defense. A tight window throw, little bit behind Julio Jones. He was able to make the adjustment on that ball, bring it in, but then he was able to take that hit to the head, which led to a penalty and a really cool moment after he caught that touchdown. And this is something that Nick Sirianni talked about this week. He's 16th all-time in receiving yards. Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers to ever lace him up, throw on the helmet and shoulder pads. He is truly one of one. And Nick Sirianni talked about this where Lane Johnson, Dallas Goedert, and all of the Eagles' teammates pretty much on the field, once they saw that number 80, Julio Jones, caught that touchdown, they rushed to him and they celebrated with him because they understand that he is an all-time great, and it was a pretty cool moment because he's in the twilight of his career for him to catch a touchdown in a big spot and make a contribution to this Eagles team. And Sirianni discussed that as I mentioned, and here's that full quote in further detail. He said, you would have thought that the way Lane Johnson and A.J. Brown and Jason Kelsey and all the guys, Jordan Mailata, ran to the end zone, you would have thought it was a fight that had broken out in the end zone. They were just going into the end zone to celebrate with Julio because of how much respect they have for him, how much he's done in the 2 weeks he's been here, his work ethic. Everybody notices that. Everybody notices the way that Julio works. When you put in work in the lab and you're an all-time great and you come into that locker room and you're busting your ass like a rookie, yet you're a future Hall of Famer, that will draw the respect of all of your teammates, and that's the story there for Julio Jones so far in an Eagles uniform. One more roster move to get to, and then we'll get to some Eagles news following the NFL trade deadline. A lot to get on that front. Philadelphia making a signing to their practice squad, inking E.J. Jenkins to the practice squad. Pretty intriguing developmental player here, 6'6", 245 pounds. He played his college ball at Georgia Tech after a stop at St. Francis and South Carolina. So a couple of stops for E.J. Jenkins, undrafted free agent. He tested relative athletic score somewhere in the neighborhood of like 7 out of 10, so not a bad athlete at that size, and originally signed with the Jets as a UDFA. So we'll see if the Eagles can develop him into a fringe roster type over time. Again, that size pretty intriguing there at 6'6", 245. Go up and get a big fella. Coming up next on the show, we're going to talk about a big fella. Pause. Jalen Carter injury update. Also some Eagles news following the deadline. But first, as I mentioned off the top, today's Eagles Now is presented by Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/chat. Promo code chat. And what I want to do is tell you about the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, because I've been one of the first people to try this and it's awesome. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with the brand newer Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking about a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave you can imagine. AI is cool, but I think this might be the biggest technological advancement the world has ever seen. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultra Sphere this year by going to manscaped.com/chat for 20% off and free shipping by using the code chat. You see the code there at the bottom of your screen. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little bit off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. So one more time, it's 20% off and free shipping using the code chat at manscaped.com/chat. We'll put that link down below in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. Up next, a Jalen Carter injury update. A little bit of a scare following the Eagles' win over the Washington Commanders. He got pulled out of that game with a back injury. X-rays came back negative. MRI came back negative as well. So he was able to avoid a pretty catastrophic and serious injury given the player that he is, the development that we've seen taking place, but also his impact on this Eagles defense under first-year defensive coordinator Sean Desai. What a year for the Rook. And I continue to be amazed at the fact that the Eagles got him at number 9, Howie Roseman. How he do that? Jalen Carter ranking 5th in the NFL among all players this year in pressures with 28. He is going to be a franchise cornerstone for the next decade minimum. Second highest graded interior defender in the NFL. And up to this point, Jalen Carter with 14 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. He does have an opportunity to play against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. I imagine this is an injury that the Eagles are going to take slowly because of the potential that he has, but also the severity given that it is a back injury. And they're not going to make a decision until later in the week. But all signs positive on this front with the X-rays and MRIs coming back negative. That means that it is not a serious injury at all. Let's round out the show by recapping the Eagles' deadline moves. And even though Philadelphia did not add a player on NFL trade deadline day, they were pretty active. And I know a lot of people have been in the comment section saying, "You're talking about these trade rumors. These are clickbait." Are you ever going to give us credit for talking about the moves that actually happened? Probably not, because we did talk about Kevin Byard. And we talked about the Eagles' potential interest in a couple of players. Just because they didn't make a move on deadline day doesn't mean that we are wrong, because we're being informative the entire time. So let's recap some of the moves, right? Philadelphia trading for safety Kevin Byard, a move that I really liked, and a lot of NFL insiders and executives, people around the league, are coining the Eagles as deadline winners because of this move, bringing in the player that Byard is, but also addressing an area of weakness, but also the compensation here. You trade away a 5th-round pick and a 6th-round pick, as well as Terrell Edmunds, for Kevin Byard, who's going to be able to help this team down the stretch. The Eagles also getting busy and trading away a player, Kentavious Street, backup defensive tackle who had played 17% of the snaps. He's going to the Atlanta Falcons. The compensation there, Street and a 2025 7th for a 2024 6th-round pick. To get rid of Kentavious Street, who is barely playing, for a 6th-round pick that you can use on day 3 of the draft, you'll take that value any day. And we did talk about this here on the show. Trading away Kentavious Street opened up a roster spot. Philadelphia able to use that roster spot for Julio Jones. There was buzz, and we talked about this buzz, which came from some of the top NFL insiders, that the Eagles were poking around at that linebacker position. I think the deals for Howie Roseman may have been a little bit too rich, but also, let's keep this in mind. The Eagles were 7-1 with the current iteration and construction of this roster. So maybe Howie Roseman didn't like the deals and didn't like the offers from some of the other teams, but also specifically at that linebacker spot. Zach Cunningham has played really good ball. Nicholas Morrow has played good football. And how about the play of Nakobe Dean, sniffing out some plays against the run, being pretty good in coverage here? I like the development of Nakobe Dean, and I'd rather see a young player like him develop instead of stalling that development by bringing in another linebacker. We talked about Jordan Hicks. We talked about Josie Jewell of the Denver Broncos, those deals not coming to fruition, in addition to a couple of the linebacker targets that we did discuss. The Eagles also had rumored interest in Jalen Johnson, the cornerback for the Chicago Bears. I thought potentially that move may have been able to happen because he requested a trade overnight going into yesterday, but the Bears, even though they're a bad football team, seem to be buyers on deadline day. They traded for Montez Sweat as the Commanders were sellers, and they're going to look to sign Jalen Johnson, one of the top young cornerbacks in the NFL, to a contract extension. Other trade news that does impact Philadelphia in the division, but also with an NFC counterpart in the San Francisco 49ers, the Niners trading away a 3rd-round comp pick for Chase Young. So, in total, Washington trading away 2 very good edge rushers. Montez Sweat for an early 2nd, and then Chase Young for a 3rd-round pick. I don't like that compensation back for Washington, but it's F the commies all day, so who cares? If you're still watching, Give me a Go Birds down below. Real ones only. Real ones are the ones who continue to rock with us for the entire duration of the program. We appreciate y'all for watching. We'll be live in a few hours, so make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications.